It was supposed to be just another episode, but what happened on set that day changed everything. A single decision pushed the show to its limits, leading to an incident so shocking that the footage was locked away for decades. Why did the cast refuse to talk about it? And what made this particular moment so dangerous that it almost ended the series forever? Before it became one of TV's most iconic sitcoms, the idea for the Munsters had been buried for decades. It all started in the 1940s when legendary animator Bob Clampett, best known for Looney Tunes, envisioned a funny monster family for the screen. But the concept never took off. It sat untouched for years until the early 1960s, when comedy writers Alan Burns and Chris Hayward saw an opportunity. Inspired by Charles Addams's eerie yet lovable cartoons, they decided to bring the monstrous world to life. But here's where it gets interesting. Rather than creating something entirely new, they turned to Universal Studios, which held the rights to legendary monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula. The studio saw potential, and suddenly, what started as a quirky concept was on its way to becoming a sitcom phenomenon. The Munsters weren't just another TV family. They were a hilarious twist on classic horror icons. But what no one knew was that behind the laughs, there were secrets, struggles, and one episode that went way too far. When the show premiered in the early 1960s, classic monster films were making a comeback, and audiences were eager for something fresh. Universal had the perfect setup, access to iconic monster designs, and a team that knew how to bring them to life. Enter Bud Westmore, the legendary makeup artist who transformed Fred Gwynne into the towering, lovable Herman Munster. The makeup, the prosthetics, the heavy boots, it all worked seamlessly on screen. But off-screen, the actors were suffering. Fred Gwynne endured grueling hours in makeup and layers of padding that added up to 50 extra pounds. Under the scorching studio lights, he once lost 10 pounds in a single day. Yet, no matter how tough it got, he stayed in character, delivering a performance that made Herman Munster unforgettable. But the physical strain was only part of the challenge. For Al Lewis, who played Grandpa Munster, the problem wasn't just the heat, it was his prosthetic nose. The original design was much longer, but every time he sipped his coffee, it absorbed the liquid, turning into a soggy mess. Eventually, the crew had to shorten it just to keep it from falling apart mid-scene. And then there was the cast shakeup that almost derailed everything. Initially, Joan Marshall played the role of Phoebe Munster, but executives worried she looked too much like Morticia Addams from the competing show The Addams Family. The producers scrapped her character and introduced Lily Munster instead. Enter Yvonne De Carlo, a Hollywood star better known for dramatic roles. Gwynne and Lewis weren't convinced she could handle comedy, but she quickly proved them wrong. She played Lily like a classic 1950s housewife, only with a gothic twist. The balance between her elegance and Herman's goofy charm became a key part of the show's magic. But not every casting change went smoothly. Originally, Eddie Munster was played by Nate Happy Derman. His portrayal? A bratty troublemaker with a mean streak. The tone didn't fit. When Butch Patrick stepped in, he gave Eddie a mischievous yet lovable charm, making him more relatable to young audiences. That one decision reshaped the show's dynamic entirely. And then there was Marilyn. Beverly Owen, the original actress, never wanted to take the role in the first place. Tricked into signing a contract, she was miserable on set, sometimes even breaking into tears between takes. Eventually, she found a way out, and Pat Priest stepped in, bringing warmth and relatability to the normal member of the Munster family. While the cast was finding their footing, the show's setting was becoming just as iconic. 1313 Mockingbird Lane wasn't just a house. It was a character of its own. Inspired by Victorian mansions with a horror twist, the house looked haunted, but felt like a real home. Every detail, from the grand staircase to the cobweb-covered chandeliers, played a role in shaping the Munsters' spooky yet comedic atmosphere. But did you know part of the house was repurposed from Leave It to Beaver? The contrast between an ordinary suburban street and this monstrous mansion made the humor even sharper. And then came the legendary Dragula. This wasn't just any car. It was built from an actual fiberglass coffin. The problem? In California, it was illegal to sell a coffin without a death certificate. But the crew found a way around it. They made a backdoor deal with a funeral home, sneaking the coffin out at night. No questions asked. The result? A monstrous hot rod with a 289 cubic inch Ford V8 engine, silver spider hubcaps, and an eerie Gothic design that became an instant FA. But that wasn't the only wild ride. The Munster coach was just as iconic. Designed by the same genius behind the 1960s Batmobile, this stretched-out Model T became the ultimate monster mobile, making appearances at parades, exhibitions, and even private collections. In 1964, when The Munsters first hit the small screen, it was more than just a quirky comedy about a Frankenstein-like father, a vampire mother, and their strange yet lovable family. It was a show that resonated with audiences on a deeper level, addressing the struggles of being different in a world that values conformity. But behind the campy humor and slapstick comedy, The Munsters tackled some hard-hitting themes of acceptance and inclusion. One episode, Operation Herman, captured this beautifully when Herman, despite his towering and frightening appearance, did everything in his power to visit his son Eddie after a tonsillectomy. The confusion, the misunderstanding, and the slapstick humor were all wrapped up in a moment that, surprisingly, challenged societal norms in a way that few TV shows dared to do at the time. And then there's the unforgettable lesson from Herman Munster himself. In one of the most poignant moments of the series, Herman gives Eddie a heart-to-heart talk about what truly matters in life. What matters is the size of your heart and the strength of your character, he says, words that still echo today. It was an unusual and unexpected moment for a sitcom, but it showed that The Munsters was not just about monsters living in suburbia. It was about challenging the idea that appearances should define us. But The Munsters had a journey filled with unexpected twists, too. Despite being a huge success in its first season, it was ultimately canceled in 1966, largely due to the rising popularity of ABC's Batman. It was a cruel irony for a show that had captured the hearts of audiences, only to be overshadowed by the explosive, colorful world of Gotham City. The show's decline in ratings was a bitter pill to swallow for those who had loved the quirky monsters. But like so many things in Hollywood, what goes up must come down. Still, the impact of The Munsters didn't fade away. In fact, it lived on through spin-offs, reboots, and films. The 1988 reboot, The Munsters Today, took a unique approach by placing the family into a modern setting, adjusting to a new era after being in a deep sleep for 22 years. While it didn't capture the same magic as the original, it was a valiant attempt to keep the Munster legacy alive. But not all revivals were as well received. When Rob Zombie tried to reboot The Munsters in 2022 with a campy, exaggerated style, the film received mixed reviews. While some fans appreciated the nostalgia, others felt it lacked the magic of the original. Nevertheless, the film's release on Netflix kept the iconic family in the spotlight, proving that they still have a place in pop culture. But The Munsters isn't the only show with a hauntingly familiar story of struggle and success. Just like many Hollywood stars who face sudden rises to fame, followed by unexpected falls from grace, the show's legacy mirrors the tumultuous career arcs of many celebrities today. From financial setbacks to personal tragedies, we see stars whose fame once seemed invincible now struggling to regain their footing. Take, for example, the ongoing saga of some Hollywood figures who are grappling with shocking revelations. There are those who, just like Herman Munster, were once the beloved faces of their families, only to face personal demons or loss that changed everything. The modern entertainment industry, just like the world of The Munsters, has seen a shift toward more nuanced storytelling, where the focus is on the flaws and humanity of its characters. This is evident in the recent rise of shows like Stranger Things, where supernatural elements blend with heartfelt family dynamics. But let's not forget the enduring charm of characters like Herman Munster and Grandpa. Their ability to mix heart and humor has influenced everything from The Simpsons to What We Do in the Shadows, proving that, even in an era of reboots and remakes, the timeless appeal of the Munsters still holds a place in pop culture. Their message, that it's not what you look like, but who you are inside that truly matters, is as relevant now as it was decades ago. And much like the continuing saga of the Munsters, the lives of celebrities are an ever-evolving narrative. They may fall from the spotlight, face personal demons, or deal with public scrutiny. But in the end, what keeps them relevant is their ability to evolve and connect with their audience. The story of the Munsters is far from over, and neither is the journey of Hollywood's most beloved and sometimes controversial stars. Their ability to overcome adversity, change the narrative, and rise above the challenges they face is what makes them truly unforgettable.